So game books started in fantasy world, and most of the game books I know were set in the fantasy world. But it broke out to different various realities. So what do you think, Dave, about blending the genres in Whispers Beyond the Stars? Why cosmic horror and cyberpunk?
Well, um, I'm not that keen on genre as a straitjacket anyway. I think I Lovecraft was moving towards this idea that he wanted to tell stories that would horror stories that would feel real. And of course, as soon as you put it into the framework of any genre package, it's a little bit comfortable. You're being scared, but it's like a ghost train ride at the fair. And I think what Lovecraft was striving towards, maybe if he'd lived another 10 years, was um, to tell a story that why he picked contemporary settings as well. Tell a story that would be horrific in our world and without genre trappings. And so I don't really see it uh, as sci-fi. I mean, we're talking about 25 years from now. Well, it's not so much science fiction as this is the future that's being born right now. And 25 years will go very quickly. I'll probably be dead, but many of you will live to see the world of 25 years from now. And I don't think it's not going to look like Star Trek, right? So that I don't think it's not really going against anything that Lovecraft would do. I think that setting Lovecraftian stories in the 1920s and 1930s is the sort of thing that Lovecraft would have wondered why people were bothering because he wouldn't, towards the end of his life, he wasn't telling stories where he was going to wind back to 1830 and put Cthulhu in a medieval setting or anything like that. He wanted it to feel like the immediacy of our feeling of being overwhelmed by modern life and new vistas of reality. Those are things that he wanted to address directly. So I think in an earlier talk I briefly mentioned Black Mirror, and I think I don't know whether a lot of those stories would be regarded as satire or as science fiction or as modern drama. They're just one slip away from today, and um, so I think it's not that it's surprising that we've mixed these things up. I think it's exactly what Lovecraft was aiming for.
And I think also Lovecraft was thinking in terms of the uh, much bigger pieces of time, like, for
Yeah,
example, million years,
yeah,
right? Or eons.
yeah,
And he was reaching very, very early to the history of Earth and the history of cosmos. So, frankly speaking, from this perspective, if something happens in 30s, 50s now, or in 100 years, it is really
yeah.
less significant from the Lovecraft perspective than from the other point of view.
Yeah, I mean, if we were, I don't think they're going to make the movie of At the Mountains of Madness, but if they were, it would be more interesting. In a way, they've made it the thing, I suppose, is the nearest, but actually, it's influenced so many because that influenced John W. Campbell to write Who Goes There, and that influenced the thing. But it would be a modern story to make sense of it. There'd be no point in going along and seeing everybody in 1920s gear or 1930s gear rather. That would only be a kind of cosplay approach to it. I think Lovecraft would, if he were alive today, he'd say, set it right now, make people terrified, don't make them cozy, don't make it a period piece. So yeah, of course he's thinking on cosmic scales, and these are drops in the ocean compared to that. And also, by the way, he'd love everything I think happening. Well, he'd love and dread everything that's happening today, but he would certainly embrace all of the stuff to do with cosmic inflation of the cosmic web and dark matter, and all of these things would all get folded into the Cthulhu mythos, I'm sure.